Today I'd like to look at an Italian sparkling wine. So the wine I have here is a Ricci Curbastro Extra Brut Franciacorta, and it's their museum release. This is a wine from the 2005 vintage. Now, the Ricci Curbastro family have been growing grapes in Franciacorta in northern Italy, in Lombardy, since the 14th century. And 18 generations of their family have been involved in this enterprise. Now, the traditional method sparkling wine style that is Franciacorta is something that's been much more recently created. Although the first mention of sparkling wine being made here dates back to a book written in the 1570s, actually the DOC for Franciacorta sparkling wines was only created in 1967, when 11 companies got together to create the DOC. And Ricci Curbastro were one of those original founding companies in the DOC. In 1995, Franciacorta was upgraded to DOCG status, and at that stage there were 45 companies making sparkling wine here. Today, there's somewhere closer to 120 companies producing sparkling wines in Franciacorta. Back in the Middle Ages, vine growing in this region stems from the fact that monks had come from the abbey at Cluny in Macon to the south of Burgundy, and with them they'd brought the varieties that they'd grown there. So at that stage, Pinot Noir was introduced to the region, as was Chardonnay. I should say that Ricci Curbastro also makes still wines, and they make those under the Sabino IGT, and they include still Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and they also make Merlot, I believe. And today it's Ricardo Ricci Curbastro, who is the member of the family who takes responsibility for winemaking and overseeing the company. The styles of wine the company make tend to veer more towards long aging and low dosage, so they're aiming for fine, elegant, complex wines. Clearly the wine I'm looking at today predates this, but the company since 2017 have been farming sustainably. The estate comprises 34 hectares. That's spread over 3 vineyards in 3 different villages, and of those 34 hectares, 32 of them are planted to vines. The Franciacorta region has an incredible diversity of soil types. The low hills here were created by glaciation, and as a result you'll find somewhere in the region of 60 different soil types throughout Franciacorta. This particular wine is a blend of 50-50 of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And the first fermentation for these wines went on both in stainless steel tanks and a portion fermented and aged in oak. One of the things that makes this quite an exceptional wine and really quite interesting is the fact that as a museum release, the Extra Brut has then gone on to spend 10 years aging in bottle with the yeast lees that remained after fermentation still in the bottle, breaking down, and those lees will release proteins, sugars, flavours into the wine, helping to create really tiny bubbles and to fix them in place, and helping to give a little bit of weight and richness to the wine, and also complexity to the flavours. The wine was then bottled with quite a low dosage. For an Extra Brut, you're allowed to have up to 6 grams per litre of sugar. And then subsequently, this wine, a 2005, would have been degorged in 2016, having had 10 years on lees and around a year prior to second fermentation. So in fact this wine's then also spent 9 years on cork, which I should imagine will give it greater richness and roundness. So let's have a look at it and see what we make of it, shall we? This is perhaps not the best glass to be reviewing the wine's fizz in. However, when I look carefully, I can still make out some very fine bubbles slowly progressing up the glass. The colour, the medium yellow, that's probably reflecting the wine's age. I should imagine it was a much lighter colour when bottled. So let's have a look at the aromas, shall we? The aromas are toasty and complex. There really are signs of autolytic development and bottle development in there at the same time. There's a lemony note, there are toasty hints, there are yeasty hints. Those lemony notes have gone on to develop more into a sort of a candied peel note, adding a richness, a ripeness, and almost a sweetness to the aromas. There are yeasty notes behind, and the entire wine has a mineral nature, but actually it's the complex interplay of those lemony, candied peel notes and toasty notes that are really dominating this. So let's have a taste. on the palate. There's still quite a soft mousse. I mean, this is an older wine and I've been talking for a while, so certainly the mousse isn't what it would have been had we have drunk this a few years earlier. At the front of the palate there's a mineral note to the acidity. Again, there are lemony notes, showing themselves more as a sort of a lemon curd, then developing into those more candied peel notes, and you've almost got sort of gingery spice touches as well. The wine is dry, but there's a lot of richness there. I'm seeing less of the yeasty flavours, but there's a rich smoothness across the back palate, which is almost certainly derived from the lees aging. That excellent acidity is giving lovely length. There's some mineral hints. Now I'm getting a few more sort of toasty, yeasty notes on the back palate. Those candied peel notes are almost touching on sort of being slightly marmalade-y. Then as the acidity is showing through as being minerally, there are also some delicate saline notes. I have to say, I'm impressed by this wine's complexity and its length of flavour. It has this lovely core of acidity that's keeping the whole thing together beautifully. Almost certainly, even though it's a museum release, I probably should have drunk this 4 or 5 years ago. And at that stage, there would have been a more vigorous mousse, which would have helped support those flavours. But aside from the mellow softness of its diminishing sparkle, this is a beautifully complex wine that shows signs both of autolytic aging in the bottle with its yeasts, but also bottle aged subsequently. It's very complex, and those fantastic flavours are still lingering. There's an interplay between them in my mouth even now. I think this wine really shows that Franciacorta is able to produce some really top quality wines. I think maybe the style is perhaps a little softer than champagne, and yet at the same time there is enough acidity and there's enough concentration to allow the wine to continue developing. I took a look at the Wine Searcher aggregated critic score for this wine, and the wine only scored 89 out of 100. I'm really quite surprised by that. Even with its mousse fading, I'm convinced this is a wine that's worth at least 91 or 92 out of 100. I've been hugely impressed with it, and I'm very much going to enjoy finishing the bottle. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've found it of interest, do please press the like button. I'd really appreciate that. If you have any comments you'd like to make, please pop those in the comments box below. I'd love to hear what you think about the wines I'm looking at, the tastings I'm doing, or anything else that relates to that. If you'd like to watch more of these videos, do please consider signing up and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And that way also make sure that you set yourself an alert, and then you can be notified every time I publish a new tasting. And if you have any friends you think might like to watch the video, do please feel free to pass it on to them. I'd really appreciate that. So thank you again for joining me, and I do hope you might manage to make some time and come and watch some more videos in the very near future. Till then, bye for now.